Welcome to Echoes in the Gallery. I'm your host, Susan L. Sistrunk. I'm a lifelong artist and veteran educator of the arts. I'm proud to bring you my first podcast set in a series of volumes. Each episode will air weekly on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Tonight, we continue with Volume 1, Beneath the Paint, Episode 4, The Fear, where we will delve deeper into Gwen and Jonathan's situation and the mysterious stranger who has entered their lives. Let us step into the gallery and begin. Odd, Jonathan thought to himself. She always answered at this hour. With it being just after 7 p.m., Gwen would be finished with dinner and getting set up to paint. While one dried, another 2 or 3 paintings of her own work would be in rotation. He missed their nights together terribly. They would paint side by side, drink wine, make love, and after a couple hours' rest, repeat the process. Jonathan sighed and brought himself back to reality. He knew this was challenging for her, and she couldn't be around Jonathan or share his bed right now. But she always answered. "Hello, you've reached the cell phone of Gwen. I can't come to the phone right now. Please leave a message." The recording stopped and beeped in preparation for the caller to acquiesce to the request. He hung up the phone and headed to the refrigerator for a beer. She wasn't really one for the silent treatment, but maybe she had had her fill of this. Jonathan realized he was asking quite a lot from her. Gwen had taken so much time and care to find the correct canvas from the correct time period, the right size. She had studied the composition of pigments from the era, ground and mixed the paint herself. Gwen was the most talented artist he had ever known in his life, and it was a shame he had put them both in this position. Jonathan drifted off to sleep, wishing things were different. In the sweet abyss of his dream, he saw Gwen and he at the beach. It was their first getaway, and they were blissfully in love. It was San Diego, and they had escaped for a long weekend. She was running in the surf as her hair swirled around her face. He chased after her and put his hands on either side of Gwen's face. The light shone brightly in her eyes, and he could see the love he felt for her. Suddenly, she reached up and slapped him across the cheek. "Wake the hell up, jackass. You have a problem." Jonathan's eyes flew open as an open palm slapped his face. In front of him stood a petite woman with a curvy figure. Golden brown curls framed her face. The eyes were full of rage and bewilderment. "What are you doing asleep at a time like this?" Getting his bearings, Jonathan shouted, "Who the hell are you, and why are you in my apartment?" He stood up, his lean, tall figure towering over the small, furious woman. "My name isn't important right now. What are you doing with Ivanov? Are you working for him?" Jonathan began to sweat inside. "How do you know about Ivanov?" "Another thing which is not important. If you are working for him, you are most likely in big trouble. You and your girlfriend are working for a very dangerous man. I've been tracking him for a long time, following his acquisitions. Where is Gwen?" "I haven't talked to her since earlier today. She was upset about our current project. I tried to call her after work, but I couldn't get a hold of her. Her phone goes to voicemail." "Come on, I have a car. Let's go see if she's home. Is there any chance she could be out this late?" "No. After work she goes home, eats dinner, sometimes takes a nap, and then gets to work painting." A few moments later they pulled up at Gwen's apartment building. He raced up the stairs, fumbling with his key. All the way he tried to call her with the exact same results. It wasn't dead. It would have gone straight to voicemail. Maybe she'd lost it somewhere. He opened the door and flipped on the light. Jonathan could feel the panic surge through his veins. "No. Oh, God, no," he whispered. Her phone lay on the floor of the room by the couch, along with her purse. Tuturia came in the door behind him and heard the mutterings under his breath. "What is it?" she asked. Without answering, Jonathan began running through the tiny apartment looking for Gwen. Gato was laying on the bed and sleepily looked up. "Jonathan," Tuturia yelled, "tell me what is going on." He walked back to the living room and sat down on the sofa. Bending over, he sank back and stared up at the paint. Bending over, he sank back and stared up at the ceiling. The painting is gone. Tuturia felt an ominous rumbling in the pit of her stomach. "What painting, Jonathan?" she whispered. He breathed in slowly as a tear formed in the corner of his eye. Tuturia sat down across from him and looked him in the eyes. "This is dangerous, Jonathan. My name is Tuturia and I'm here to help you. What did you agree to do for him?" Jonathan began slowly. "About 5 years ago we started the gallery. Gwen and I poured everything we had into it, and we were incredibly passionate. At first it was a huge success. Everyone from San Francisco society came to the openings and bought art from us. We dealt in everything from modern realism to impression. She was so happy, just what she had talked about when we met at Berkeley. After about 2 years, the money started drying up, and so did our client base. New flashier galleries popped up, and we were beginning to feel obsolete. We were getting pretty desperate. Then one day this man comes in and says he's looking for a Renoir. We had one, but it wasn't the period he was looking for. So we told him we would keep looking and see what we could acquire for him. Now you have to understand how broke we were. Looking back, I can't even believe we did all of this." Tuturia looked him in the eye. "What did you do?" "Gwen can paint anything, and I mean anything," he returned her stare. "You two forged the Renoir," she whispered. "Yes. Then a Monet, then a Picasso." He looked down. "What was she working on for Ivanov this time?" "Something different, another impressionist. But that's not important. What is important is that Ivanov must have found out that the painting was forgery, grabbed it and her. What if he hurts her?" Jonathan felt the hot tears of shame roll down his cheeks. How could he have put her in such danger? If he could manage to get her out of this, would she ever be able to forgive him? "Well, that is a very real possibility that she could be hurt," Tuturia whispered. "Let's get out of here. They'll be looking for you next. The good news is, I may know where they are taking her." "Where?" Jonathan felt the timid flutters of hope rise into his throat. "Ivanov has an office space downtown with access to an executive elevator. He could easily get someone in there unnoticed through the garage. We're going to need some help." Tuturia pulled out her cell phone and dialed. Sergei picked up immediately. "Hello? We have a very big problem. How is access to the system going?" "Slow," he answered. "It could take another few days to breach his firewall. What's the problem?" "The woman, Gwen, is missing. We think Ivanov has taken her." "Are you at the office?" "Yes." "That's a huge problem. Without her, how are we going to—" Tuturia cut him off. "I know. We're going to have to get her back. Can you patch into his office so we can hear what is being said?" Sergei sighed. "Well, I can run a mic through the attic and into the ductwork, but it will be tricky. I don't want to fall through the ceiling." "Okay, get on it. He probably took her there. We're going to get some supplies and reinforcements." She hung up and looked at Jonathan. "We have work to do." "Now do you want to tell me who you are?" he asked slowly. "I'm the person who's going to get you out of this. I've been investigating Ivanov and his business for a while now, and it is time to act." She went into the kitchen and poured a glass of whiskey for Jonathan. The man was trembling. Handing it to him, she said, "Drink this," in a tone which left no room for questions. When he was done, Tuturia looked at Jonathan and said, "Let's go." This concludes the 4th episode of Echoes in the Gallery. Please join me, your host, Susan L. Sistrunk, next week for episode 5, where we discover what has become of Gwen and learn the history behind the missing painting. Until then, thank you for listening. Stay safe and love each other.